Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and lovely evening to everyone. Welcome to World Humanitarian Drive, WHD. And this time, WHD Malaysia brings to you beautiful online conference called New Normal, Challenges and Choices Between Differently Able versus COVID-19. My name Ahmad Tarmizi Mukhtar. I am the host for you today. Apa khabar semua? In Malaysia, then we call how are you, ladies and gentlemen. For all Malaysian, it's still not too late for me to wish you happiest Malaysian Day. Happiest Malaysian Day to everybody in Malaysia. My friends, I'm currently have multiple hats, both in corporate world, social and humanitarian development for the past 20 years. But in short, I'm currently serving Malaysia airports as corporate strategist since 2018. We are managing 39 airports in Malaysia and also one airport in Istanbul. I'm also Secretary General of Humanity Malaysia since 2014. And I was a former Special Advisor to OIC Special Envoy for Myanmar between 2014 and 2017. And I was also the former Special Officer to Chairman of Land Public Transport Commission of Malaysia between 2012 and 2018. I'm honored to share my humble achievement in humanity works, where I was one of the recipients of the prestigious WHD Global Humanitarian Award given in June 2020 this year for my work in Malaysia, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. On this auspicious occasion, please allow me to welcome three key VVIPs. Number one is founder, the president of World Humanitarian Drive, WHD, and Ambassador for Peace, Honorable Sir Abdul Basit Said. Second one is Honorable Professor Dr. G.P. Doraisamy, the Secretary General of WHD Malaysia. And the other one is Ms. Sarah Wilson, WHD Head of Global Operation. Welcome, three VIPs in this event. And to our media partners, TV Bricks and News Abode, thank you for the amazing effort. You guys are fantastic. To other local and international media, you guys are brilliant. All viewers, supporters, audiences from Malaysia and friends, apparently we are watching this online conference live with more than 12 countries around the world. Alhamdulillah. And more than 12 countries watching is now. Today, WHD Malaysia brings together 8 guest speakers from 5 countries, 4 from Malaysia, 1 from France, 1 from Russia, 1 from India, and another one from Germany. The first one is Dr. Billy Tang Seng from Malaysia. How are you, Dr. Billy? He is good. He is an agriculturist by profession and a private researcher for over 2 decades. Please welcome Dr. Billy. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure and greatest honor to be able to join this panel of many great minds. I'm truly humbled for this opportunity given to me by Professor Dr. Doraisamy. My name is Dr. Billy Tang. I'm a paraplegic farmer from Malaysia. I met with an accident that severed my spinal cord. And since then, I have dedicated my life to ensure that I'm farming nutritious food for my peers with disabilities and other marginalized groups. I firmly believe that in the post-COVID-19 era, agriculture is no longer about farming, but about feeding. Nutritious food should not be a luxury, but a basic human right accessible to both rich and the poor. In my country, nutrition insecurity among our urban poor is a real issue, and people with disabilities often fall under this category. My peers with disabilities were unable to compete with society to access nutritious food when the government announced a lockdown, and they were also the first to have lost their jobs. Financially, their income is capped at only $290 USD per month. Thus, my team and I are working hard on the ground to address this problem. When I was an abled man, I led my team to dig 77 wells in rural areas across Myanmar. As a recognition of my contribution, we have been given a special opportunity to purchase 5 acres of land in Morbi as a foreigner. Through agricultural social entrepreneurship, I'm happy to announce that my people in Myanmar have successfully grown 5 acres to 1,000 acres and are using the land to grow rice. They are now self-sustainable and their next generation no longer have to live in poverty. I have a lot more to share, but I'd love to hear more about the wonderful stories from the other esteemed humanitarians on this panel. I'm sure I can learn plenty. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Billy Tang. Thank you. Warm welcome to the event. Thank you. So our next esteemed leaders in this event is Dr. Janina Yorosova from Germany. She is the founder of the Without Borders project, which deals with the problems of a society's perception of disability. Please welcome Dr. Janina Yorosova for the introduction.
So, guten Tag, dobry večer, hello to everybody. I'm originally from Russia, from Moscow, now living in Germany. Thank you for the invitation to this far, far away country, which is normally not on the radar of me. So it's a new experience to me to hear the stories from another side of the world. As to me, I have no directly touching with disabilities my life. I was a corporate communication strategist for Siemens in Russia. I was a researcher for cultural anthropology. And then I came to disability topic from the business side. And maybe it explains the new approaches, me and my partner in Russia, the new ways we could go because we didn't have, we do have another focus on the topic. And over 10 years, I'm working in the field of disability as a social entrepreneur and to change the perception about people with disability in Russia and all over the world. And my focuses were on fashion, communication, and creation of innovative products with the industries. These COVID times hit me like lots of people all over the world, because my project were cancelled by the beginning of the year, and so I had this happiness to do nothing and just to relax and to hear, to get the connection to the silence where we get the best ideas from. And I started a new project, a media project with 10 interviews with people with disability all over the world, to speak with them not about the difficulties in the times of COVID, but about the expertise in the crisis times. They are experts into crisis management. So, and this project, the learnings of the project, I want to share with you in the second time. And I'm happy that Dr. Billy Tang tell me that he is now one of my guests on my panel, one of the 10 guests. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Janina Yorosova, for the wonderful introduction. Okay, next leader and the panelist in this evening event is Dr. Amar Seng. He is a senior consultant, pediatrician, and researcher in Malaysia. Please welcome Dr. Amar Seng. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, Tamizi, and thank you for the introduction to join all of you this evening. As Tamizi said, I'm a pediatrician by training. I worked with the National Health Service in Malaysia for more than 35 years. I ran both a pediatric department as well as a regional research department. But my key areas are working in disability and other marginalized areas. I helped the Ministry of Health in Malaysia to revamp the disability screening for children, as well as introduce a more concerted disability registration mechanism. But I've been working with people with disabilities since 1978, and my strength is working in the community. I've started quite a number of family support groups. I've started a number of non-governmental organizations to work in disability, especially the National Early Childhood Intervention Council, of which I was the president and currently their advisor. And we try to work on policy as well as advocacy to fight for services for people with disability. I'm currently working also with the National Family Support Group for Children and People with Special Needs to see how we can empower parents and children with disability to become their own advocates. My strength is getting people to come together, offering direction and advocating. Personally, I'm also a person with dyslexia, so it helps me appreciate a little bit about the disability world. I'm glad to be with you here, and I'd like to share some of the experiences we had working with people with disability. Thank you, Tamizi.
Thank you, Dr. Amar. And for our information, Dr. Amar also have an Outstanding Asian Pediatrician Award in 2012. We are very glad to have you here, sir. Next esteemed panelist that we have tonight is Dr. Alexander Saworsky from Russia. He's the current Vice President of BRICS International Alliance of Moscow. Please welcome Dr. Alexander Saworsky for your brief introduction. Please,
good evening, dear colleagues. Welcome our conference and good event, and thank you so much for your invitation. I'm Dr. Alexander Saworsky. I'm a Vice President of International Alliance BRICS. This is organization in Moscow. And I would like to tell you about our activity in Moscow, in other country, because BRICS, you know, this is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And we would like to tell you about some interesting about our activity. So the task of International Alliance of BRICS strategic project is the creation of the territory, the main purpose of which is identification and support of civil initiatives. Alliance experts are ready to carry out continuous assessment of social undertaking to give them impetus to development through advice and support from the federal and international level professionals, facilitating the task of the launch period, selecting the competent and professional partners, providing staff as through registered in the program and among the other participating countries, as well as remotely. BRICS is coming into the world, and the world is coming in BRICS. International Alliance of BRICS Strategic Projects is a community of experts and specialists to establish and develop public international relations in various fields, optimal selection of partners for the promotion of projects of international format, which are consistent with the general program of the BRICS. Today, one of the leading factors of social destabilization leading to a variety of negative and even destructive phenomena in many countries, and particularly in countries where standard of living and education of the population are below the critical level, is a growing gap between the management strategy and the daily life of society. The problem can and must be solved through the establishment of special programs and projects, extrapolating a positive shifts in the global domestic and foreign policy on the life of society. The support of civil initiatives and implementation of which created a visible and strong bond between the people and the government implements a solid foundation for the real support and the construction of a global improvement in innovation. So I would like to wish all the best for our speakers, and I wish to be more better in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Please welcome to this evening event. The next speaker, number 5, is Mr. Wong Yun Lung. Mr. Wong Yun Lung from Malaysia. He is currently the manager for the Center of Accessibility, Research and Empowerment for the Blind at the National Council for the Blind of Malaysia. Please welcome Mr. Wong Yun Lung.
Thank you, Termizi. Thank you for your kind introduction, and thank you, Dato Doraisamy, for inviting me to join all the esteemed speakers in this session. I'm blind from birth, and since I'm disabled, I've been actively working in the field of disability ever since I completed my studies at the university. So I've been in the field for about 30 years now, and I'm also the vice president of the Malaysian Confederation of the Disabled, and my expertise in the field of special education, accessibility, audio description, advocacy, inclusion, and ICT, and several more. So I like to advocate for improvement, for inclusion of persons with disabilities, and also I like to work in the field of empowering young people to be future leaders, because all of us are now maybe retiring soon, or we should be moving on. So we need to prepare future leaders. So it's good to empower young people so that they are prepared to take over when they are ready and when we are ready to move on. So I'll share more of my thoughts during the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong Yun Lung. For our information, Mr. Wong also awarded the Takeo Iwawashi Award 2013 by Nippon Lighthouse in recognition of his outstanding services. Please welcome Mr. Wong. Our next panelist be Ms. Rahma Sofia Rajdi from France. Rahma Sofia Rajdi is a journalist in politics, in wheelchair, and head of the correspondence based in Paris, France. Please welcome Ms. Rahma Sofia Rajdi.
Hello, everybody. As said Janina, I'm really glad to share this one-of-a-kind event with people from all over the world, and especially Malaysia. I mean, it's very outstanding to have this diverse panel. I want to have to share. I'd like to share a special mention for Mr. Wong. Would love to have somebody like him, a blind person that is so active and you know, outstanding career and representing precisely the inclusion in terms of representativity here in France. So today I'd love to share some thoughts, but also some figures here regarding disability here in France, and in terms of the main laws we have here in France. The first one is the law of 1987, and then there was another one that followed up in 2005. That's out the main laws. Unfortunately, they're not that implemented, although the laws are very, very complex and very, very, you know, targeting all aspects of the 6 aspects and 6 diverse definitions of the disability here in France. When it comes to my own path, as you just mentioned, I used to be valid, and then I had a brain stroke in 2012. Then I was nearly walking back with crutches. Then I had another event that happened to me. It was a deep vein thrombosis in my brain. Then I was nearly stable in 2016, you know, rolling over my wheelchair and everything, and kind of regain my dynamic and, you know, and kind of autonomy. And then in 2017, I had another car accident. So that was the third. I think I think now I'm reaching a kind of a balance with my disability, and I'm getting adjusted to this new life. And I'm really admiring the Mr. Billy, that is also in wheelchair and a farmer, a very successful farmer. And I'm seeing also Mr. Wongan. It gives me even more courage in my daily life. And I'm glad to be here today and to give you to share some thoughts over the COVID pandemic and what happened here in France, and the way we tackled that and the way we reacted to that. So that's it, basically. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rama. And we are very glad to note that you also frequently active in international conference and workshop as a moderator for debates in UNESCO World Forum for Peace in Normandy. Congratulations, Ms. Rama. Please welcome. Our next panelist in today's event is Honorable Ms. Padmawati Krishnan from Malaysia. She's the president of Association of Women with Disability Malaysia and director on board of directors SOCSO Rehab Centers. Please welcome Honorable Padmawati Krishnan.
Thank you, Tamizi. Hello, everyone. It's nice to have Asia and Europe meet on this very special day. I would like to thank Dr. Doraisamy for having invited me. And this is a remarkable event, my World Humanitarian Drive, to have this session today. I became a person with disability at age 21 when I was studying at the University of Malaya. Due to an accident, I sustained spinal cord injury in 1975. So that makes it 45 years I've been on a wheelchair. And I became very involved in advocating for disability rights from about 40 years ago, beginning around 1978, where I felt that what I had gone through need to be shared with other people, and then particularly spinal injured persons and physically disabled persons. And then I became interested in raising issues and joining associations. And also I was one of the founder members of the Malaysian Spinal Injuries Association in 1994. And then I went on also to organize the Wheelchair Tennis Malaysia, because I was an active sports person before. And it gave me, as time went by, I began to gain confidence. And then our dialogues with the government in bringing issues that were pertinent for persons with disabilities to make sure that they are empowered and they get equal rights and access to all the facilities enjoyed by typical population. And I think when talking about what has hit the whole world last year, the COVID-19, it has come as a shock to everyone, and everyone is some are in the process of even adjustment. And what I'm interested in is in finding out how persons with disabilities are coping with it and adjusting to this normal, the new normal. And I'm so glad to be one of the panelists on this session today. And I look forward to sharing information and also getting information from Europe as well as India and other participants from Malaysia. And that's about all I can introduce about myself. And I'm also, and there's a new organization that we started called Malaysian Spinal Injury Advocacy Association, of which I'm also one of the advisors. So that's all about me. We'll continue later.
Thank you, Honorable Padmawati Krishnan. And we are very glad to note that you was also the senator at Upper House of Parliament of Malaysia from 2013 until 2019. I'm very glad to have you here this evening, Honorable Padmawati.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next panelist in today's event is Dr. Fajila Azad from India. Dr. Fajila Azad is from India and has her strong background from the United Arab Emirates. She is an international life coach. Please welcome Dr. Fajila Azad to introduce yourself to everybody, please. Are you there, Dr. Fazila? Dr. Fazila, are you there? Hello? I think Dr. Fazila have some difficulties there. Shall we proceed to another key figures in this event? And Dr. Fazila, are you there? I think we will introduce Dr. Fazila later when she's come in, yeah? And ladies and gentlemen, actually I'm not alone today. I will be supported by Ms. Hema Doraisamy as our moderator for the day. Ms. Hema Doraisamy is the director of My Global World. She is into education business affiliated with institutions from Switzerland, Denmark, and US. Please welcome Ms. Hema Doraisamy to introduce yourself to everybody. Please, Ms.
Hi,
Hema.
everyone. A very
Hi,
good
Hema.
day to everybody.
Yeah.
First and foremost, a warm welcome to all our online audience on yet another interesting conference organized by the World Humanitarian Drive Malaysia chapter. Well, today we are here to discuss on the new normal challenges and choices on differently abled versus COVID. Personally, it's a proud moment for me to moderate this interesting topic of discussion, as my dad is also a differently able person born with only 3 fingers in each of his upper limbs in his hands. So total he only has 6 fingers as compared to 10 fingers from the normal people. And I'm also proud to say that my dad is here with us today. He's none other than Professor Dr. G.P. Doraisamy, who's the Secretary General for the World Humanitarian Drive Malaysia chapter. Well, with that having said, let's proceed with our interesting session for today, which is the Q&A session with all the amazing 8 speakers that we have lined up today. So let's begin with the first speaker for today, which is Dr. Billy. Dr. Billy, are you ready for your questions?
Yes, I am, Emma.
All right.
Hema,
Yes.
Hema, Dr. Billy, I just received a signal from Dr. Fazila. Can we introduce her for a while?
Yes, sure,
Yes.
Dr. Fazila, yes.
Please welcome Dr. Fazila.
Yes, please.
Yes. Please introduce yourself briefly to everybody.
First, greetings to all the great souls. I'm really happy to be here in this great forum. And to introduce myself, I'm the international speaker, international life coach. I'm a happiness ambassador and NLP practitioner. I'm a speaker, author, and a poet as well. I'm giving talks in the media, writing columns in the magazines. It's all about making an awareness about the self-love, because I think the self-love is the foundation for everything. Only if we feel ourselves, we could feel anybody else around us. We will have a tolerance level to cope up with the people around us. So that's what my idea is. But above all this, I prefer to stand tall as a humanitarian, like as you all do, by creating, making, doing all the ways possible, way ahead to the humanity. And about this all, by being a person, being a moderator, being a facilitator, I met several people with a slight shadows of sorrows in them. When I see people, I'll see them with the question, why me? Why is it happening to me? As a counselor, I face all such things from them. When they start saying, I have this problem, I have that problem, I say, well, you can go proceed with all those you feel as a problem. But just for now, replace the word problem as a challenge. You can proceed then. So gloomy, they will start saying, I have this challenge. I had that challenge. You know what? I got this challenge. but I could see the tone changes, the face changes, the posture changes with every challenge they use, every confidence, every level of confidence I could see in them. People might ask me, how could a word can make a change? Is it possible? I face this question in all the interviews. I immediately ask them, are you ready to take a problem? What will they say? Will anybody be ready to take a problem? They say, no, why should we? Then I ask, are you ready to take a challenge? For sure, everybody will come forward to take a challenge, to show their skill. That is the word could make a change. So being an NLP practitioner, we know how the words could make a magic in the neurons of the mind, neurons in the brain. So this is the way we take things movable. And now here, I really got reminded of the name change, the replace, the campaigns the UN took to replace the name with the differently abled from what was prevailed before that. That time, our ex-chief minister of South India, Tamil Nadu, he took initiative and recognized. He pioneered to change the name, and he found a very apt name in Tamil, in that language, Matruthirunali. And he didn't end up by that. He took more other steps. A lot of schemes he introduced to facilitate that differently abled people. I suppose the word would have influenced him as well. The ability, it is just the ability is differently made. They have the ability. So he introduced reservations, the quotas in the government jobs and elsewhere. That was followed in all the other areas, other regions in India. And believe me, I really feel these are not the benefits to the differently abled people. These are really benefit to the nation, to the world, as we could use the abilities of the differently abled people who challenges the challenges just like that. That's it. Let's go furthermore. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fajila Azad. Dr. Fajila Azad is an international life coach. Also, she is a master NLP practitioner and master author, speaker, and poet. She has tried, tested, proved that approach to change is simple and practical. She has authored numerous books and received many awards, notably the Achievement Award from the Governor of Tamil Nadu, India. So we are very glad to have Dr. Fajila Azad in this dialogue. Right?
Thank you.
Okay. Please welcome Dr. Ms. Hema Doraisamy to moderate the floor. Please welcome Ms. Hema.
Hi, okay, so I'm back again, and so we'll start with the question and answer. So
Yes.
Dr. Billy, you'll be the first to answer my questions. Okay. So the first question for you would be, we know that business activities around the world came to a standstill during the pandemic, and humanitarian organizations also faced difficulties in continuing their empowerment programs due to compassion fatigue. What is your take on this as a paraplegic farmer?
Yeah, Hema, thank you for the question. I think you have used the right word to describe the situation, compassion fatigue, where people get so burnt out from giving all the time, especially during this pandemic where people have to prioritize their own survival first. My take on this as a farmer sitting on a wheelchair is that humanities is largely intertwined with economics. And we all have suffered from the current supply-demand linear economics. This is evident when COVID-19 forced global supply chain to dispose of millions of tons of wasted food, while 121 million more people are estimated to go hungry. As people continue to lose their source of food and income, shifting down the tiers in Maslow's hierarchy of need, where does this leave us, people with disabilities? I personally know many friends with disabilities who run NGOs and social enterprises, mostly relying on public goodwill and CSR. Then the worst happened, and overnight their businesses quickly became obsolete, Then I came across Donut Economics of Kate Raworth, which basically encompasses a circular economy that keeps us from overshooting the planet resources and falling short of social foundations like health and equality, focusing on a regenerative economy. So I created the world's first organic vegetable terrarium that is self-watering and can sustain a family to eat fresh, alive, nutritious, and unrefrigerated vegetables for at least 3 months, up to a year. And their terrarium are still growing vegetables for them to harvest weekly. This is a very powerful initiative because now we can tell CSR managers and the good public with only 150 ringgit or $36, you can help a poor family eat nutritiously for at least 3 months. To date, we have more than 270 terrariums sitting in the homes of the rich, the poor, and the disabled. We are talking about a decentralized food production box sitting right in your house, growing food for you without you being a farmer, and is a climate change resilient, pandemic resilient, and compassion resilient. Why I did this is because I think the term empowerment holds a different meaning now as we navigate through COVID-19. In my professional view, food security must come first. Everything else is secondary. That's why right now, my team and I want to ensure that my disabled peers are eating healthily, as we are one of the high-risk groups in this health pandemic. We must increase our body's immune system to combat this pandemic that still has no vaccine. Thank you.
That's a great effort, Dr. Lily. Now, your next question will be, what opportunities do people with disabilities have as the world experiences a paradigm shift into the new normal?
Emma, honestly, there is just so much. You see, when businesses realize that a lot of the work and communication can be done remotely over the internet, they will start becoming much more inclusive in hiring people with disabilities. We have an impact partner who is training wheelchair-bound creatives with marketing, digital, and financial skill, which are always in demand. For a brief moment in history, able and disabled people are all seen as equal behind the screen. Like now, we are having an international webinar. Our audiences are now focusing on what we can do instead of what we can't do. We now know that businesses want to be more ethical and socially responsible. And this itself is one of the biggest opportunities for people with disabilities. Based on my personal experience, I got to witness the hearts of men during this pandemic. When I was running an adoption program for some of the organic giant tilapia fishes, our fishes grew to 2 kilograms during the lockdown, as our farm couldn't harvest the fishes due to the plunging demand from F&B's closing. So now we have thousands of fishes that grew to become giants. We asked the restaurants if they wanted the fishes. They said no, it's way too big. We asked friends. They also think it's too big for their families. I thought to myself, this fish is large enough to feed a family of 8 to 12. And then I had an amazing idea to run the adoption program, whereby anyone can adopt a fish for only 35 ringgit or $850, and they can choose to want to fish the fish or give it up for the poor. That was in early August. As of now, we have over 600 giant fishes adopted by people from various countries, demonstrate feeding without borders. And 90% of them are dedicated to the poor and disabled families by the good public. Remember, these people had a choice and they choose to give. The point I'm trying to highlight here is that there is faith in humanity. People and businesses are becoming more empathetic, more aware, more willing to lend a helping hand when opportunity presents itself. I would like to appeal to our dear audience here to check out our Facebook page, PWD Smart Farmability, to see for yourself that humanity is good, even in this pandemic. And with the success of this adoption program, we hereby declare that we are now raising the bar to reach 5,000 fish adoptions to help us continue to make nutritious food and meaningful job accessible to the people with disabilities. I hope I have answered your question, Emma. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Billy, for giving your time and great effort on your fish adoption program. It really sounds interesting. Well done to you. Let's move on to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Janina. Now, Dr. Janina, are you here to answer your questions?
Yes.
All right. The first question would be, could you share with us on your project, moccasins, on whom the project need to see and why? I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrongly, but I hope to hear from you, Dr. Janina.
Yes, I told already that in this time of the crisis, I invented a project, a media project about to share the knowledge of people with disabilities, how to manage the crisis, both private and the crisis on their business side. So, and this project has a name, 2 Moons in Your Moccasin, because you know about this proverb from Indian of America, don't judge a person before you walk 2 moons in his moccasins. So, and in the time of pandemic, in lockdown, every one of us, people without disabilities, learned how to be restricted, how to be disabled. And we experienced the situation, the people with disability also faced after they got it. And it is 3 target audiences we project addressed. It is the first as a business. There are CEOs and HR managers and product development, and it's about the agenda of the Valuable 500 with Carolyn Casey, who says, if disability is not on your board agenda, neither is diversity and innovation and reputation. So it's about to share, to show people with disabilities with their expertise as early adopters of digital technologies, as people who can work from where they are, and people who are resilient, which is very important. The second audience who need to see that it's every one of us, people whom Fajala also help to go over the difficult situation in their life. And it's both actually because of COVID and in general because of the crisis, because the human life consists of the crisis, and we are growing our mind and soul through the crisis. And the third target audience, there are people with disabilities who are early in the stage of rehabilitation. It was a new situation for me to find this target audience, because every one of you know that the reconvalesation starts when you see the others like you. That is just normal. That is your personal new normal. And this is lots of people who are like you. It's a great support. And I think these interviews and 10 experience, and it should be more, will help.
Thank you, Dr. Janina Yorosova. Now, the second question would be, why do you think that people with disabilities are valuable experts for work in business companies?
So now I just want to share 3 experiences from my guests. The first one is I flew Asan from Kazakhstan. For 2 weeks, she speaks to TED in Kazakhstan. She's in a wheelchair. She's a journalist. She has 3 children. And what I learned from her is she built her work duties around her home duties. And it's very important for women in business particularly in Germany, who was very stressed by the situation, not to be in the office, but to be in the home and to have children and the household and to have a business. And so Aisloa-san tell us how she, with restricted motorics and the wheelchair, just managed the situation. The second one is from Raman Aranin. He is an entrepreneur from Kaliningrad in Rusland. And he is an innovative entrepreneur who builds Observer is the name of his business. He builds innovative wheelchairs and equipment to make environments barrier-free. And Roman and his business, which has more than 40 employees, and the third of them are disabled in a wheelchair. I mean, people using a wheelchair, not disabled people using wheelchair. His business don't affected by crisis and lockdown. Why? Because 4 years ago, he started to organize the whole business on the platform of CRM. So the whole business is online. And no one of the employees goes into the office if he or she has a flu, which is in Germany just normal. You are going to the office until you die. So, and the point is, in the moment where your boss is quadriplegic, Roman is quadriplegic, he could move himself, no one goes in the office with the flu, it's clear. So it's protect the boss. So, and more experience you will have on my project, which started last week. And I would love to invite every one of you and organization in your countries and the university to join the social franchising for this project, because I want to create that the people with disability meet people without disabilities through the new media to be a blogger. We just give the whole design and questions and the whole stuff, and the people can make these interviews on and along of our project, and we will publish it. So you are invited to share the idea and to share the experience of people with disability. As a crisis manager and early adopter of digital technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yorosova, on that interesting project of yours and the sharing to our audience today. Let's move on to our next speaker for today, which is Datuk Dr. Amar from Malaysia. Datuk Dr. Amar, your question for today would be, what are the challenges faced in the COVID-19 pandemic in Malaysia by the disabled of different ages? Please, could you give me a response based on the life trajectory of persons with disabilities? Dr. Amar?
Thank you, Hema, for that question. And basically, there are 5 stages in a person's life, or 5 challenges that a person with disability will face. First, there's the time of diagnosis. Then there's a time of early intervention or rehabilitation, then education or training, employment, and lastly, long-term care. And we can use these 5 stages to describe the challenges that Malaysian individuals are facing in the COVID crisis. And I think it will apply to most countries as well. So firstly, diagnosis. I think there's currently a very significant delay in the time of diagnosis because hospitals are not good places. We've had a lockdown. So we've noticed that children and adults with disability now have a delay in their diagnosis, and this delay is still continuing, and this limits or hinders the process of starting your rehabilitation. The second phase is the rehabilitation or early intervention, and this is the phase I'm most worried about. We've had a lockdown, lots of children and adults lost rehabilitation or early intervention, and even when we opened back our doors, a lot of people were afraid to come to centers for early intervention or rehabilitation. And in particular, I'm very concerned that quite a few of our early intervention centers, which are run by non-governmental organizations, will now have to close their borders because they are financially strapped. Many of the staffs are burnt out, trying to maintain an SOP. Many of them have taken a pay cut, but most of them have lost donations, lost CSR, and may have to shut their doors. And this will severely affect early intervention for children. Thirdly, education and training. I think disabled are considered individuals with a higher risk for COVID-19. And so there's been a delay in sending them back to school or training, unlike other children. And even getting back right now is still a struggle for many of them. And not everyone can wear a mask. I think children with autism and some others have difficulty wearing a mask. And so this is a struggle. We have children falling back in the achievements that they have previously achieved. Fourthly, there's employment. A lot of individuals with disability are daily wage earners. Many have lost their jobs. Many don't have good reserves. And there is a crisis in terms of food security, which Billy has talked about. And fifthly, there's long-term care. I've noticed that there's increased isolation of people with disability who are stuck at home. It's harder to go out. It's perceived as more dangerous to go out. Less people come and visit you, less therapists come and visit you. And mobility is definitely harder, especially if you're visually impaired. Finally, beside these 5 major challenges that we are seeing, there's also concern about dignity for people with disability. If the COVID epidemic grows dramatically in any country, we worry that intensive care services will not be provided in the same manner as it would for people who are able, because people don't perceive people with disability as having a quality of life. Back to you, Hema.
Thank you, Dr. Amar. The second question would be, what suggestions would you make to the authorities in Malaysia to support people with disabilities, especially PWT, in this COVID-19 crisis?
Thanks, Hema. And I think these suggestions will apply to any country, but especially countries which don't have a good social structure or system. I'd like to talk about 3 suggestions, a 3+1 suggestion. And these suggestions are not just for government, but also for civil society and for corporate bodies. I think we need to be proactive. We mustn't wait for the problem to surface. And it's important to bring people with disability back into inclusion and meet their financial needs. The first suggestion is communication. Now, COVID-19 information changes dramatically, moves very fast. Even those of us who keep abreast have difficulty. What more people with disabilities, and quite often the information is not translated in a manner which they can receive. I think it's very important for government and other bodies to translate COVID-19 information into a disability appropriate form, especially for the different kinds of disability, whether you're hearing impaired, visually impaired, or have a cognitive problem. So the first is communication. The second suggestion I have is financial support. I think this is the key. And although NGOs and others may do work, no one can reach the disabled like the government, and no one has the resources like the government. And it's not just the people with disability, but also their families. And we need to be having a very clear map of the whole situation, identify all individuals. We can use NGOs here to help identify what's happening on the ground. We must make sure no family falls through the cracks. Currently, I think a lot of individuals don't have their needs met. Only a portion of the population have their needs met. And we must ensure basic food security. And once we've done that, I think we must move on to ensure employment security for these individuals. Thirdly, I think we must support the system. Much of the disability system in many countries like ours is run by civil societies, run by NGOs. They offer early intervention, they offer rehabilitation, they offer other disability services. Currently, many of them are struggling financially. They're losing staff. And I think it's incumbent on governments to actually make sure they don't lose their staff, that the wages of their staff are met and their budgets are met as well, while we try and work to try and revitalize the corporate bodies to donate. Finally, there's a +1. I purposely put the +1 there to indicate that actually the title that we have today about a new normal is not actually very correct. People with disabilities always been marginalized. They've never really been adequately included in society. And COVID-19 has made life very much more difficult. It's unmasked and disrupted the routines of people with disability even more than those who are able. So I'd like to say there's no new normal. We've never been normal. We've always been abnormal as a society. And the coronavirus has helped to unmask this abnormality in our society, the sickness in our society. So it's time to become normal. It's time to return humanity to society. It's time to come back to a more equitable society where everyone can be given dignity and respect as a human being. And I think it's time to stop chasing capitalism, things that we can do for ourselves, and come back to a more community living and a community serving and sharing our resources with each other. Thank you, Hema.
Thank you, Dr. Amar. I totally agree with you. Everyone has to be treated with respect. Now, moving on to the next speaker that we have today is Dr. Alexander Saworsky. Dr. Alexander Saworsky, the question to you would be, what is the support to people with disabilities in modern society as a part of government and non-government organizations' activity? What do you think?
Yes, Hema, thank you so much for your questions. It's very important that government and non-governmental organization, private companies paid attention to extensive and innovative actions for future use of international standards and standards concerning people with disabilities. School, university, and other educational institutes shall create proper conditions for their training. Mass media can make especially valuable contribution to case of support of people with disabilities to disturb information on disability, shortcoming of medical services, imperfection of education and professional training, to report about the achievements and the problems arising when carrying out social policy about the program and projects directed to support of people with disability, to promote understanding by society of need of not just abstract human attitude towards people with disabilities and the specific active help to it. Their activities are limited to physical, social, psychological, and other barriers. So believe in the modern era of modern standard, new reality, normal reality, the time of high technologies and computer communications. It's a unique opportunity to create all conditions for full activity of people with disability, to provide them with work and to use all their intellectual potential. At the beginning of the 21st century, to leave a considerable part of the population of the global outside society is not just a tragedy, but it's a crime. And everyone has to define for himself what he can personally make for people who daily threw down a challenge to destiny and daily overcomes themselves. And it's why the support of government and non-government organization for people with disability is very important in our modern life, and organization can do anything to realize support for people with disability. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. The next question to you will be, what do you think? What is a real attitude towards people with disabilities for today?
Thank you, Emma, for this question. It's not a secret that today most of our fellow citizens concerned people with disabilities with pity or an emotional neglect, even with hostility, without understanding what they are those people who deserve special attitude towards themselves. Quite often, society perceives a person with disability as poor, without capabilities, with the lost opportunities which require material support and daily help, a person who can't realize himself in society, and many. The principle of respect of future of people with disability, and the main thing, their perception as a part of mankind is enshrined in the United Nations Convention on the Right of People with Disabilities. Does the society understand that the main problem of a person with disabilities is not lack of a wheelchair and an artificial limb, and even not small pension, and above all for them is to have opportunities to exercise the right to live, to education, to employment, and to self-realization. Do you know that such famous representatives of mankind as composers Frédéric Chopin, Johann Sebastian Bach, artist Leonardo da Vinci, Claude Monet, Edgar Degas, the famous French actress Sarah Bernard, and many other had a vital issue with health, but each person in the world knows about their achievements, and it didn't prevent them to become the great. Isn't it paradoxical that Ludwig van Beethoven had a big problem with hearing? Do you know? One of United States President Franklin Delano Roosevelt had severe defeat of the musculoskeletal device and moved his life in the wheelchair. The famous British physicist, the author of the theory of black holes, Professor Stephen Hawking, who is called modern Einstein, and who was changed more than 40 years, 40 years to a wheelchair, and could communicate with the world only by means of a computer signalizer of speech made flight by special designed plane to feel state of wilderness. Image, despite a heavy disability, Hawking researched the fundamental laws managing the universe. He, the 8 genius from the 100 genius of the present list, continued to lead a full-fledged life, learning new and granting the knowledge to the world. It means we must support the person with disability. It's our life, is our destiny. Thank you. Emma?
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Now let's move on to our next speaker, which is Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong, can you share with us your COVID-19 challenges?
Okay, thank you, Hema. Basically, COVID-19 challenges are those that faced by my friends with disabilities. So when we have a lockdown in Malaysia, COVID-19 is unprecedented. Nobody knows the extent of this pandemic. So everybody was caught unaware and everyone don't know what to do. So likewise, persons with disabilities are also feeling stressed. They don't know what is the real situation. They don't know how to differentiate between what is the truth and fake news. There are a lot of fake news during COVID-19, especially my friends with hearing impairment. They cannot understand what is being reported on TV because there was no sign language interpretation. Simple things in life that you all take for granted, like putting on a mask. But people who are blind, they don't know which direction, whether this is supposed to be out or this part supposed to be in. They don't know. So they need to be taught, they need to be told, they need to have instructions in audio so that they can understand. A lot of persons with disabilities do not stay with their families. They work in cities. So when such things happen, they have no time to go back to their families. So they don't have cooking facilities. They need cooked food. So all these issues, like government are giving aid, but persons with disabilities who are unable to use computers, they cannot register for the aid because a lot of things are done online. So from this, we took action. So we tried to discuss with government officials, and sign language interpretation became available on TV. A lot of infographics on TV has incorporated some audio that blind people can listen to. And food aid started to be given, and a lot of assistance provided. But moving forward, a lot of people say that, they like to use the tagline, build back better. So as for me, if what is the past is not good, why should we build back better? We don't have to build back better. So what I would like to advocate is we should build for inclusion. We don't know when will be next pandemic. We don't know when will be something else will happen. So we have to take inclusion into consideration. So whatever we do, we have to build for everybody, so that we do not have issues that we have to deal with persons with disabilities anymore, because we have included everybody. We also have to give opportunity and train leaders of disabled people's organization, so that they can have advocacy skills to discuss with government officials, to resolve problems, to formulate plans, to come up with new programs. So we need advocacy skills. We need to train young people. And we are not out of the woods yet. We don't know when this pandemic will end. And we don't know when vaccine will be available. But there will be another challenge. When finally vaccine is available, are we going to give vaccine to persons with disability last? Are they going to be the last to be vaccinated? Everybody first? So that is a real challenge to all
Mr. Wong,
governments.
sorry to interrupt.
Okay? Yeah, I finished.
Yeah. The second question, can you share with us very, very briefly, probably a short answer on the amazing voluntary work that you're currently doing?
Okay, I know you are running out of time, but as I mentioned just now, empowerment is very important. So actually, I allocate time to do some voluntary work. We have a project to empower young people through ICT, where we train people in the Asia Pacific countries on the use of ICT, because ICT is very important. We also have program on leadership skills. We want young people to come out as future leaders. So we train them with leadership skills. And we also have, I also do voluntary work in providing training in computerized braille production, where we train people to how to make braille documents from by using computers. And we have set up many braille publishing units in Asia Pacific countries. They are all operating very well, and they are producing braille materials where blind people can use and can go to schools.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wong, and great effort on your work there. Thank you. Let's move on to our next speaker, Ms. Rahma. Ms. Rahma, your questions will be, on what basis do you comply for editing laws on disability and their implementation? Is it the UNHCR's Declaration of Human Rights or other reference? May I also remind all the speakers here, please keep to your timing. So Ms. Rahma, you have 3 minutes to only answer these questions. I hope you can keep to the time.
Thank you, Hema. I just would like to have a kind of benchmark, maybe, because we are lucky today to be here, you know, East versus Occidental countries, I mean, European countries, I see Russia, Germany, and Malaysia, India. So the question is related to the Human Rights Declaration, of course, of the UN, because in France, we have, as I said, two really powerful laws, but it is very central. It's not that decentralized. So when it comes to this implementation, I'm kind of wondering about what is exactly the, you know, the most powerful mean to make these laws that are very completed to be implemented at the end of the day, you know, on field. So I was very curious about what is happening in, you know, diverse countries, because in France we are 12 million.
Sorry to interrupt, Miss Rahma. Could you please turn on your video on? I think it's only in your image right now. Sorry, just to let you know. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it's
okay.
There are 12 million disabled people here in France, out of the 66 million people of population, which means a rate of 15%. So I mean, it is important, you know. It counts. The lack of visibility of the disabled is very high in France. You don't see them that much in, you know, high position, like I say here, you guys in your countries, in politics and media, and somebody mentioned fashion, you know, the showbiz, cinema. We don't see them that much. Although we have a very strong law here in France that says that above 20 employees, public sector and private sector are obliged to employ the disabled people. So we have this, and we have, you know, the power to enforce them. But most of the companies, they prefer to pay the fine, which is like 4,000, the minimum wage of the 4,000 times, sorry, of the minimum wage to be paid as a fine for a company that doesn't employ or recruit disabled people. So we have this unit that is called AGVIP. So this unit that is you know, a French unit here, that is a body that is working with the law, with the government, and they are overwhelmed with money. So like most of the companies, the blue chip companies, you know, the richest company and even the less rich companies, they rather pay that fine than to employ the disabled people. So this is a problem that we have here in France in terms of inclusion. And as I am, you know, running through the politics, and I'm, you know, in this field, and I'm also now having a fellowship in ENA. That is I'm the only and one disabled person here in this most prestigious school here in France for politics, for European studies, high European studies, because my intent is to comply this with the European countries and harmonize the laws, and maybe, you know, we'll be able to reach out, you know, this, you know, this capacity of implement the laws. Did I answer the question? No,
yes, your second question will be, in each of your respective countries, how is inclusion of the disabled people being really adopted by public institutions and private sector versus Europe in order to make them feel disabled, different able rather than disabled?
Yeah. So when Dr. Abu Sayed for this invitation, he gently announced this new way of naming the disabled as different able. And I love this word, and I love the way he worded this, because it's another way to tackle, and it's also another way to change the mindset on how a disabled, because disabled means you're not able to do something or not. But of course, I mean, no matter how how you are active, and you're gonna get involved, and you're gonna have the strive and the courage and the brave when you see people here around, to do the maximum as a disabled. But then yet we have limitation because of the lack of autonomy. I'm myself dependent on somebody to help me out for transfers. But at the end of the day, the different able expression is, I think, is very accurate, and I think it has to go, we have to put it above, and to push it, towards the biggest institutions, NGOs, and the UN and whatever is changing the public policies. Because once we'll be seen as different able and having a big asset to bring out our added value in the society, and not assisted, but an active actor, maybe the mindset will change, and maybe then we'll get more included, and then we'll enhance this inclusion that I'm fighting for.
Thank you, Dr. Fajila. Thank you, Dr. Fajila. So we're done with 6 speakers. We have the last 2 speakers left. So the next speaker is Honorable Ms. Batmawati from Malaysia. Ms. Batma, the question for you would be, how has COVID-19 affected persons with disabilities in Malaysia?
Thank you, Hema. All right, I will go faster. Yeah, when this COVID-19 came about, what was the most, the biggest problem was when the movement control order was introduced by our government, whereby the disabled people could not go out, or neither could anyone come into their houses to help them. And basically, food and hygiene, these were the 2 aspects that need to be paid attention to. Food, how do they get food supplies? So they were at a loss, and a lot of neighbors had come in to help, and even before the government started to move. And then secondly, there were many of them who need assistance in their daily lives, particularly those who are severely disabled. You need to have a carer who comes in to do things for you. So when all this was stopped, it brought about extra stress to the families which had persons with disabilities who were severely disabled or bedridden. So this is one aspect. Secondly, even those, even closing of the borders between the countries, between our neighboring countries, where we used to take a foreign labor to come and work as a household help, and that too has been affected. Secondly, those who were working, disabled persons who were working could not go and do their jobs. And because of the lack of literacy, a lot of them are involved in own businesses, small businesses. And because of this movement control order, they could not go out at all. And secondly, the communication of information, as mentioned by Dr. Amar also, this was a major problem as well. And I think a lot of them used their WhatsApp, and in between friends, with disabilities, they were able to pass a lot of messages. And when it came to sign language, the Malaysian Federation of the Deaf had, the standard operating procedures of what to do. The standard operating procedure that came from the Ministry of Health was also done in sign language and spread out and circulated among persons with who were deaf. So these were some of the strongest challenges which were facing persons with disabilities. And also, sorry, those with spinal injury, we had a webinar whereby information was given by doctors as well as advisors on what are the extra things to look after, because for persons who are wheelchair users, they touch the wheelchair and all that, hands are dirty always. So extra care to wash hands and to make sure that hands are always clean before touching anything to avoid the spread of the coronavirus.
All right. Over to you. The next question will be, what has the Malaysian government done to help the persons with disabilities to cope with this new normal?
Yeah, as I mentioned, food and health were the 2 major issues. So food baskets were distributed to persons who needed them, including persons with disabilities. And this was done with the help of non-governmental organizations, that came in, volunteers that came in. The National Youth Organization also came in to help to give out all this food. And even when there was lockdown, they were able to, the lockdown was not complete curfew, so they were given permission to distribute food to those who need them. And even WhatsApp messages, we have got My Sejahtera, where the WhatsApp messages can come from those who need them, and they can be identified, and food can be delivered to them. And the Department of Welfare too, provided guidelines to rehabilitation centers which were under them, to community-based rehabilitation centers, to make sure that the proper standard operating procedure, where health, wearing of mask and hand cleanliness and all that were strictly followed. And even to the independent preschool kindergartens as well. But then most of them are still not open yet because they're not ready. And financial, like what Dr. Amar said, financial problem is another reason why they are still not open yet. And the Ministry of Education also, after opening the schools, they limited for typical students, 20 students per class. And for children with disabilities, students with disabilities, 7 to a class. And this too, only slowly it is catching up. And also, there are many who are emotionally affected due to a lot of stress brought about by these, restrictions in the daily life and the new norm, the new lifestyle that come in. So, WhatsApp, there's a line open, a telephone line open for people to ring in for any kind of assistance, whether they need food, help, or even emotional support. So these are a few things provided by the government at the moment. Over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Patna, for the sharing. I'm actually proud to say that Malaysian government has actually extended their help to the persons of disabilities in Malaysia during these difficult times. Now, let's move on to the last speaker that we have for today, which is Dr. Fajila. Dr. Fajila, the first question for you would be, is COVID time more challenging for differently abled persons?
Well, before I directly tell you the answer, yes or no, I would like to tell my experience with the clients. I recently got a client with saying that I don't have this, I don't have that. I'm really suffering due to this COVID period. Already I was suffering and it made me more to suffer, like she was telling. I just asked her to write it down, what she has instead of what she doesn't have. She started to write, and then I asked her to read it loud. She was reading, then she herself was amazing that she has more than she didn't have. Then I asked her, see, just go on doing things what you have with what you have. It is not what we have or have not. It is that what we use or we use not. If you start using that what you have, this whole life is not enough for you. This whole world is not enough for you to serve. And then I discussed with her about Dr. Kalanger introduced what he introduced, the schemes that he spoke about, Matutranali, all those things, how the name change, how the schemes availability give life to so many people. Then I made her understand that just see, this is the power of our mind power that could make, if we make use of that power, we could have our own life. We don't need to compare ourselves with anybody else around us. I will tell you one thing. If you need to know about car, we will tell that this is so much horsepower, and each power of the car depends on the size of the car or the brand of the car and something like that. But we value the mind power with arithmetical calculation. That is the unconscious mind as the power, 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 11. 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 11. I just say like that. But if you keep on writing, then it will have a lot of zeros. That is infinite. It is equal to stars in the galaxy, sand particles in the beach. So why do I say this? Because this power doesn't differ from people to people, status to status, or it doesn't have any race, or any gender. Every individual, no matter what position they are in, what state they are in, they possess such a power. It is the belief that we have, it is that comfort zone we were in. Comfort zone is nothing but the habit zone we were in. How far we used our power makes us to believe that this is the power we have. So by understanding the power of us, just by making a small changes, just by making availability of some facilities, we can cope up with the changes, the situation, no matter what it is, COVID or anything else. We can cope up in our life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fajila. Now, the next question for you would be, could you share with us the secret of happiness in any situation? Dr. Fajila, you have 2 minutes to answer this question.
Okay, sure. Sure, I will share the happiness, but it is, I will share the secret of the happiness, but don't keep it as a secret. Please share it with everyone around.
Sure.
Okay, well, okay. So normally what we say, the secret of happiness lies in the dream come true by buying the property or studying what we dreamt of, something like that we used to say. But really the secret lies in the hormones, the creation of hormones. To name it as, we can say dose. It is the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and the endorphins. The dopamine, as the name suggests, it's secreted when we achieve something, when we do something. And the oxytocin is related to the relationships. And the serotonin is related to the service to the society. And the endorphins is related to exercise we do. The true happiness is when we achieve something, when we do service to the society, when we mend with the people around us, we get this happiness. But the secret, again, the secret inside us, it's upon the thought that you feel that you achieved something. You might have seen somebody would have scored 80 marks, but they don't feel achieved it. And they will not feel happy. But somebody would have scored 40 marks, but they feel achieved, they feel happy. Why am I saying like this is simply by making yourself, dreaming yourself, visualizing yourself that you are achieving something would make your hormones secrete, and that hormones will give us cells to grow and make you active, and by then you will achieve something. So this is the secret of happiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fajila, for that interesting sharing. Well, that's a wrap for our question and answer sessions. Thank you all to our wonderful speakers and for your amazing sharing today. I have personally learned so much today. Well, I would like to take this opportunity to thank World Humanitarian Drive for the opportunity to be given to me to be the moderator for today's conference. And with that having said, I will pass the floor back to our host today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hema. Thank you to all of the panelists involved today. You guys are simply amazing. Indeed, we learn a lot from all of you. Diversity is our strength. While practicing good values and courtesy in the fight against the spread of COVID-19, the success of people in the countries badly hit by the pandemic could be encapsulated in many ways, such as improved communication, better financial support, target mobility, secret of happiness, and etc. To all viewers globally, thank you for taking part, posting the questions to our panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a surprise announcement here. As a gesture of appreciation, WHD Malaysia would like to award e-certificate to our esteemed panelists. Alhamdulillah. Okay, we start with the number 1. Please welcome Dr. Billy Tang Seng from Malaysia. Congratulations, Dr. Billy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Clap. We'll clap.
Second one, of course, our esteemed leaders from Germany, Dr. Janina Yorosova. Congratulations, Dr. Yorosova. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, hold on.
Next, our esteemed panelists who received this e-certificate is Datuk Dr. Amar Singh from Malaysia. Congratulations, Dr. Amar.
Thank you, Tamizi. Kind of you.
Congratulations. Next, esteemed leaders today is Dr. Alexander Saworsky from Russia. Congratulations, Dr. Alexander.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next panelist, Mr. Wong Yun Long from Malaysia. Congratulations, Mr. Wong.
Thank you, Tamizi.
Next is Ms. Rama Sofia Rajdi from France. Congratulations, Ms. Rama.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, congratulations to Honorable Batmawati Krishnan from Malaysia.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Tamizi, also World Humanitarian Drive. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. And next, Dr. Fajila Azad from India. Congratulations, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Indeed, we learned a lot from this, all 8 panelists. Then please welcome the man who worked very hard behind the scene, Honorable Secretary General of WHD Malaysia, Datuk Dr. GP Doraisamy, to deliver his closing remarks. Please welcome Datuk.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad Tormizi, Mokhtar, the host for this today's WHD session entitled "The New Normal: Challenges and Choices," an alliance of ability to empower the disabilities. Now, the topic given for this session is differently abled versus pandemic COVID. Now, I'm indeed very thankful at this juncture. I would like to extend my thanks to the World Humanitarian Drive founder president, Honorable Sir Abdul Bashir Said, for having the trust and respect in me as the Malaysian WHD Secretary General, and giving this opportunity to organize such a marvelous international session on COVID in relation to the differently able people, not only in Malaysia, but around the world. Now also I must thank Ms. Sarah Wilson, who has been with me for the last 2 to 3 weeks, completely every day, working on the this series and to get this session done for today. Ms. Sarah is the Director for Global Operations for World Humanitarian Drive, and excellent, and all her team as well at this juncture. I would like to thank them. Also, I would like to thank those who have helped me from Malaysia, especially the host, Mr. Ahmad Tarmizi, and also the moderator, Ms. Hema, been together to get this session ongoing for today. Now, it's amazing to hear all such wonderful experts in this topic. Normal people would avoid this kind of a topic, but only certain chosen people would like to talk on this. And today, we have chosen the best 8 persons, not only in Malaysia, but all around the world, who spoke very candidly, very well, very professional in your presentation. I was observing from the right, from the beginning until the end. Now, I thank Dr. Billy Tang of Malaysia. Yeah, very well spoke. He spoke very well on his talent, especially in farming, even though he's in a wheelchair, but he's able to contribute to not only to the disabled people, but also to the normal people. Again, we have Dr. Amar Singh from Malaysia, an expert, a very highly qualified person, medical officer, and who has spent so many years in Malaysia, yeah, in this topic, or for helping the disabled people, especially the children, and a very well-known figure in Malaysia. Next, we had Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong And I think Mr. Wong, blind person, I have met him on one or twice occasion, but very inspiring, Mr. Wong. Thank you. You are really contributing. I'm amazed. I'm really respectful for your contribution to the blind society, to all other abnormal people, the disabled people in Malaysia and all around the world. And thank you, Mr. Wong. And of course, we have Honorable Miss Padmawati Krishnan, yeah, another very well-known figure who was a senator in the upper house in Parliament, and she's still contributing at a very high level. I thank Honorable Padmawati for taking your time to be with us for this evening. All the four Malaysian speakers, all of you spoke very well. Of course, I must not forget to thank speakers from Germany, from France, from Russia, from India. Now we have Dr. Janina Yorosova, yeah, another great figure, yeah, especially to do in the business connected to the disabled people. Yeah, this is something very interesting. I'm in fact learning, even though I'm also a born physical disabled person, but what I learned today is something new. So it's a learning process. Life is a learning process. Every day we are learning something from somewhere, from somebody. So thank you, Dr. Janina Yorosova, for your wonderful contribution. And then we have Miss Rahma Sofia Rashdi. Yeah, wonderful. You were on the wheelchair, yeah, but I can see that you have the knowledge, you have the experience, and very eager to share your experiences and knowledge to the society. And amazing. Thank you for your contribution, Ms. Rahma. And also we had Dr. Alexander from all the way from Russia. Yeah, Dr. Alexander, you spoke very well too, very knowledgeable. You had done your homework, well-prepared speech, and I really enjoyed your speech as well. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. And of course, last but not least, we had Dr. Fazila Azad from India. I think Dr. Fazila had so much to talk, so much to share with us in this session. But unfortunately, we are running short of time, and in fact, we are already in injury time now. And but you spoke very candidly with all your experiences with your patients or with your people around you, and I think we should learn more also from you. Thank you, Dr. Fazila. Thank you, Dr. Fazila, for your contribution. So all the four speakers from Germany, France, Russia, and India, we from Malaysia, from my bottom of my heart, from WHD, we thank you as well. And I'm not forgetful as well to our media. Today, the TV bricks and also the news aboard are covering this this whole session, and to be distributed to all WHD members and to all people around the world. And we must thank them. TV bricks and New Aboard are always with us in all our functions, international functions, and they're doing a wonderful job. Now, friends, if I've left any other people in this session, I'm sorry, it's not deliberate. If I've forgotten to mention you, but there's so many people who have been with us all this while, especially my fellow members in WHD Malaysia chapter. Very encouraging, they're very positive, and they always give me a lot of inputs into improving WHD Malaysia as well, WHD worldwide. Now, again, I thank all of you for taking your precious time to be with us at this day. And today is a very precious day for Malaysia, because today is a Malaysia Day celebration. 16th of September is Malaysia Day. So it's a very auspicious day for Malaysia. So it is a 2-in-1 or 3-in-1 success for having this WHD talk session for this day. So again, I thank our founder president, Honorable Sir Abdul Bashir Said, and all those technical committee, Ms. Sarah Wilson, and all those people behind the success of this session for this evening. And last but not least, I have taken down all your points. And of course, if I were to give the resolutions, it would take me another 1 hour if I were to present that resolution at this juncture. But anyway, all these resolutions which I've taken up will be presented to WHD HQ headquarters, and hopefully it will be presented to the United Nations at the soonest. Thank you, and I pass it to Mr. Ahmad Parmizi Mokhtar, the host.
Thank you, Honorable Dato. Indeed, we learned a lot from them, really. Experience from Russia, from India, from Germany, from France, and of course, from our fellow Malaysians. We can feel their sincerity. And on behalf of WHD Malaysia, we also like to award our moderator for the day with the e-certificate. Congratulations, Ms. Hema Doraisamy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Ms. Hema.
And let's not forget our host as well. So a certificate of appreciation to you as well, Tarmizi.
Okay, thank you very much, Emma. Thank you. Before I end, I wish to extend my utmost gratitude for the opportunity given to me to host the conference today. Thank you, TV Breaks, News Abroad, and other media friends as well, because of, I believe, some of the media from Malaysia also cover this event. Alhamdulillah. So we would like to share one interesting quote for the day. If I may, it was the ability that matters, not differently able, which is a word I'm not crazy about using it. We all the same. The diversity is our strength. So that's why before I end, I would like to congratulate each and every one of you. Congratulate to WHD UK, WHD Malaysia, for those who work behind the scene. And congratulations to all the panelists for their sincere sharing today. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you and bye-bye. Thank you all.